And thank you very much for joining us here on PM Express. My guest tonight is a man sought after, either him or his boss, because there's a lot that this entire government rests on. They rode into power on the back of a major promise. And there's one promise that most of us remember. Forget about the big economic promises. Oral, Operation Recover All Loot, was the one that was the banner. And they've been in power now for a while. Himself and his boss have been working to actualize the dream behind the oral initiative that the president himself has put so much weight behind. There is a lot that they're dealing with, and as you can imagine, every day there's a news item about a trial or some investigation, and they have chosen to periodically update us. He's choosing this medium to do another update, so let's call it that. My guest tonight is the Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Stremsai. I'm grateful that you can join me on PM Express. Yeah. I started talking about oral because for many Ghanaians, that was the ultimate promise that got them to sort of flip on your side, because people wanted accountability. And they wanted a party that would commit to it. And the Operation Recover All Loot was seen as that. And no wonder, that was the first action, the first order of business for the president-elect, even before he became president. So that told you instantly how much premium the president himself was going to place on it before he became president. Did you find that daunting when you got a call that you're going to be the Deputy Attorney General, on whose shoulders, together with your boss, this great weight will be rested to try and actualize this big dream of both your party, but also from the generality of Ghanaians who voted for you overwhelmingly that we haven't seen before? What was that? Did you feel that way?
Yeah, I felt the weight. But one thing that made it possible for me to be happy about this is my boss. I have known him for a number of years, since law school. And I know he's a very diligent man.
He taught you?
Yeah, he taught me. Taught me constitutional law, administrative law, and natural resource law in Lagos.
So the student and his master are both Attorney General and Deputy. That's quite something.
Yeah. So knowing the caliber of person he is, the caliber of lawyer he is a very principled man. When it comes to law, he will not trade anything for the position of the law. So I knew that no matter what, he was going to stand his ground. He's not going to persecute anybody. He would not go to court unless he has sufficient evidence to convince himself that there is something, prosecution may be successful. That is not to say that he is conclusive on the fact that he will convict people, but that is the level of confidence he will have in the case before stepping into court. So with that guidance, or the person who is leading the Attorney General's department, I became very comfortable with the appointment. And so far, it's not been easy. And I'm sure you know, you can see from my eyes that
I was just remarking that you hardly sleep.
Yeah.
But so what has been the biggest challenge for you? The fact that you're losing sleep, or the fact that now you work with police and have to, because obviously what you're doing, you're making a lot of enemies for yourself.
Yeah, that is the first challenge, that not everyone understands the job we are doing. People take it to mean I have, or the lawyers who conduct these cases, including the attorneys, have personal, issues against people. But I also know that some people understand that we are just doing our job, and that the job must be done by someone, so then we are doing it. The second biggest challenge is the bureaucracy within the ministries. I have lived my entire life, practice life, doing private practice with smaller teams, smaller law firms, and we move with speed. Within the ministry and within the Attorney General's department is a long bureaucracy, and good bureaucracy for that matter. I'm now understanding some of the things that when we used to be private practitioners, we used to complain about Attorney General's department and what we perceive as delay. But I now understand the system, and that is a challenge for me. But I'm adjusting. I'm accepting the fact that sometimes you just have to go through the procedures to get things done. That a lot of attorneys, levels from assistant states, state attorney, principal, senior state principal, chief state, before you come to the Solicitor General, we have Director of Prosecution, then we have various department heads, and processes run through this, hierarchy before. So it begins with us, goes down, and then comes up again before it goes out. That is a long process,
It must come to you as a big shock, losing your privacy. Now, you can't go home alone anymore. There must be somebody with you. Whether you like it or not, you are the property of the state. Everybody is, but in your case, you are special. You now have somebody who is armed in your house. You've lost that privacy now. You can't drive anymore and go and eat your favorite wache, that you used to now enjoy maybe because you have, and your family. That must come to you as a big, big shock.
Yeah, it is. It is because of these privacy issues. You won't see me anywhere anymore. My route has been from home to office, back home. Yeah, I still teach, so I go to school and I try to hide my security details, but sometimes you can't, and it shows, and it's a challenge. I've not seen my mom I used to see her every weekend. For the past 2 months, I've not set my eyes on my mom because of this. Yeah, so you can imagine what that means.
She lives in Accra?
Yeah.
And you haven't seen her for 2 months?
I tell you.
She understands?
She is trying to understand. So the best we do is to speak on phone and try to explain. And there are a lot of other issues that you have to deal with, family issues and all that. But we are on it.
Goodness. You say you teach. How do you find time to teach? With all the work you're doing right now, why don't you simply keep it up?
It's been tough. It's been tough when it comes to teaching. The good thing is that in Legon, we teach in teams. So you have about 3, 4, 5 lecturers teaching one particular course. So you're able to arrange in such a way that you are only teaching when you have the time. But teaching is enjoyable for those of us who consider it a calling. It's enjoyable. It's actually a way for me to move away from the real hard stuff to where you can interact with students, brilliant students, and the conversations you have with them during lectures will make you a bit more relaxed, and you would enjoy teaching. Maybe you should. Well,
that is when I decided to do law, and I'll come to one of the reasons that may convince me to do law at the end, which is the legal education bill. I'll come to that. Yeah. Let's start with the big question of oral. Your boss have made it a point to update the nation regularly. Where are we with oral since the committee presented its work and from the last update?
Yeah, thank you. Let me just put things in perspective. Oral basically is to pursue things that belong to the state, which we believe have been, taken away from the state into private pockets unlawfully. And we are not just pursuing the persons who are suspected to have stolen these things, but we are also pursuing the stolen items themselves. If it is money, to recover. If it's money, we want to recover the money. If it is any physical asset, the aim is to recover it. To do that, you are caught in between the desire to recover and the rule of law. So the law provides guarantee for persons who are subject of criminal proceedings. So you have to balance the desire to recover, to prosecute, and to bring people to justice, as well as the rule of law, which protects human rights, which protects these persons and materials from state, interferences. Now, if we take the criminal procedure, so let's begin with, let me give you an outline of what actually we have to do. So you see, the criminal proceedings begin from complaint. So there are about 7 steps. The first one is that somebody must make a complaint, or there is a complaint or suspicion, reasonable suspicion of a public officer or of a police officer. So that's the beginning. So when the person brings the complaint, the next thing you do is to commence investigation. So that's the second stage, investigations. Investigations basically to gather evidence, because when a person comes to tell you that this person has stolen this money, and he even gives you some documents or even some evidence of it, you cannot just carry what he has given you or the information to court. You need to confirm the veracity of this evidence and whether they are even things that can survive scrutiny in the court. So that will require you to conduct further investigation. Now, after investigation, you now come to docketing. That's the third stage. That is, you are building dockets from the investigation. So the investigators go out there, they bring you huge boxes of documents. Some of them are relevant, some of them are not. And so the investigators, the attorneys, we do the docketing. We look at the evidence they bring. We build a docket out of the evidence. Now, this docket is not just materials that you think will help you to convict the accused. The law says that even materials that will make you give the accused a defense, or we call them exculpatory, materials, the things that the defense can rely on to even go scot-free, you have to provide all that. So you build a docket. Then, after the end stage of the docket is to draft your charge sheet. So you see, it will take you several weeks of building the docket. Then you now arrive at the conclusion that these are the charges that I have to bring against the accused. That involves a lot of thinking, a lot of analysis, a lot of strategy. Because the fact that the person has stolen and you have evidence of stealing doesn't mean that you should go by stealing. It could be that there's another offense which is more likely to be proved or which has even better chances of success. So you weigh all this, then you finish your charge sheet. Then you now charge the accused person. The suspect then he becomes an accused person. And now you start the arraignment. So I think the fifth stage is arraignment. To arraign the person before a court. Now carry the person to court, and then they read the charges, they read the facts to the person, then they ask him to plead, whether guilty or not guilty. Then the trial begins. And within this trial, there are so many things. First of all, you have to do disclosures and then do case management conference to put the accused person on notice that this is the body of evidence we have against you. Have a look at all of them. There's also another body of evidence that we believe would help you to win the case. Take all of them, look at them, and then decide which one you want to object to, which one you don't want to object to. So we conduct case management conference to agree on that. Just a while ago, when we just finished the first stage of the case management conference with the Eduboahene case, and I'm sure your reporters will tell you, it took us how many? I think almost 2 to 3 hours to finish the case management conference because it's a huge body of documents that we have submitted. Then after that, you start calling your witness, so the prosecution will now build its case. It will take you several weeks, even if you do it day by day, it will take you several weeks. Then after that, your evidence will now be tested whether a prima facie case has been made out of against the accused person. Accused may open their defense after that has been determined that the prima facie case has been made out. Then they will now also call their witnesses to provide evidence to say that what you have done is not, I'm not guilty because I have justification for the things I have done. That will take you almost the same time that the prosecution, or even more. Then after that, the court, rises and gives a judgment. After judgment, sentencing comes. Then, if you are successful, the accused person is carried to prison to serve the term. Then you can see the criminal procedure in terms of trial has ended. But because we are doing oral, there is another aspect of it, recovery of the assets. That is a completely different procedure. So it begins with you identifying some assets that you believe are proceeds of crime. Then you make a court application first to freeze the assets so that the assets will not be dissipated or, what do I call it, or transferred or used at the end of the day. So you preserve the assets. Now, when you preserve the assets, you now need to show the court that these are proceeds of crime. And if the court agrees with you, then you recover. Some of these processes are even civil. So, for example, I know that there's evidence that someone has entered into a contract with the state. He has signed a contract, let's say, to build a road. He has been given some monies, maybe first phase, he has been paid to build the road. You go to the site, there's no evidence of work. You may bring an action for money had, so there's a cause of action called money had and received in law. It means that we have given you money to do something and we have not derived value for it. So you bring such an action, a civil action, for the person to bring the money back voluntarily. So that is the recovery stage. These activities take a lot of time. And so, but you have to be diligent, because the nature of criminal law is that the least doubt, reasonable doubt, will just let the accused person go. It doesn't matter what you think you have. If there's any doubt in the process, in everything that I've said, if there's any doubt, the accused person goes, the money goes. So it requires a lot of diligence. Now, to answer your question, where are we? Now that we have the context, where are we in oral? So currently we have, in terms of actual prosecution, we have the 2 main cases in court. Those cases we have done.
Which cases are these?
So we have the Sky Train, and then we have the Edubuahin case.
Edubuahin wasn't an oral, right?
Yeah, it wasn't part of the oral
committee.
Wasn't,
but
yeah, wasn't
subsequent
part of,
to the oral committee, because
yeah.
again, you can put it within the general concept of oral, although it wasn't in the original committee. That wasn't
true. Edubuahin was not part of the oral committee originally, so but it's part of the oral, project. Yeah. Now, there are a couple of other cases that investigation have concluded in respect of. So, if you take the national service,
yes,
is in different aspects. There's an aspect on the project that the National Service Secretariat, undertakes. So they have farms where they acquire property, they grow and sell, produce. That is there. Then there is the issue of paying ghost National Service persons. Let me put it generally. That is also there. There is also a third aspect. Now, of all these investigative reports, it's only ready for the aspect which is on the ghost names. It was submitted last week by the investigators. We have started building a docket on that. When the investigators came, they identified 22 accused persons for the National Service.
On the ghost names part?
Yeah, on the ghost name, 22 accused persons. Now, these 22, there are more people, but you have to weigh the cost of, in terms of time, effort, of bringing all these people to court and the benefit you get of retrieving the money. So we have to go through a certain process of having conversation with some of the accused persons, and I tell you, a lot of them, only a few are not willing, but a lot of them are willing to return the money.
Willingly?
Yeah, they are willing to. Some, so we enter no...
how much money in total are we looking at?
That's about 560 something million, over 500 million.
Over 500 million CDs.
CDs, that's what we are looking at
for this aspect. And these 22 individuals, you said, are the individuals that the investigators believe were responsible for that.
Exactly.
Loot, if you like.
Yeah, that alleged
loot.
Let's be
alleged loot.
Alleged
yes.
loot. Yeah. So with these people, we have to. Some of them have shown desire to return the items, the monies, and to serve as what? Prosecution witnesses against the rest. So definitely, before we go to court, the number will not be 22. It will come down because we are still having conversation with these people. And then after we charge them, they also have, some of them also have an opportunity to do what we call plea bargaining, to come and say, well, we are guilty, but instead of sentencing us to this number of years, you can come down to this and we return this amount of money. So they give us the reasons why we should not go with them through the entire process. So that is in respect of national service. There are other, cases. So the oral report had, I think, 33 cases. I can tell you on authority that right now we are running over 50 cases.
Way beyond what the committee says.
Yeah, because every day people are bringing new, there's whistleblowing going on. People are bringing new evidence, complaints, and I can tell you Ghanaians are really, you were right when you said that the oral is the ultimate determinant of what happened in 2020, because Ghanaians are really determined to get accountability. And every day, someone walks into the Attorney General office. Some come with lawyers, others come alone, and they have documents making complaints every day. So the number is actually increasing. Now...
Against former government officials?
Yeah, against former government officials. Then
Are some of them known elements within the former government themselves, or associates and affiliates of the MPP, or these are neutrals?
well, some of them are neutrals, but most of them are government officials. And
So we're part of the previous
yeah,
government.
previous government.
And they themselves
appointees,
are coming forward with information against the government they were part
no,
of.
you mean the complainants?
Those come forward, yeah.
Oh, no. So far, I have not, I would have to speak with my boss, but I have not personally, no one who is a minister of the previous, government.
Or even a low-lying government official.
Oh, yeah, in terms of low-level government officials. Yeah.
They were in the government.
Yeah,
generally.
appointees, yeah.
Appointees.
Some of them have come out to
come forward.
Yeah, come forward.
Former appointees,
yeah,
not
former,
the ministers, but
precisely.
generally on the scale of appointees
yeah.
are coming forward with information against their own former government.
Yeah, exactly. They are coming out with information against their own former colleagues. Some are high up. And you would, I respect, not that I respect, but I appreciate the demeanor of a lot of the government appointees. Once in a while you hear that someone has been picked up or someone has been invited in the media, and then there's a whole lot of noise. But I can tell you, a large number of the persons who have been arrested, who are on bail, who are under investigation, are quiet. They will not make any noise about it. Some of them believe that the process must, the process must be followed. It's only a few who, once in a while, come in the media, and then people are massing up to go to Iyoko. But there are a lot of them who go quietly, do what they are asked to do, and leave without any noise at all.
In fact, just last 2 weeks, the running mate of the former vice president, Dr. Matuboko Prempeh himself
he said this.
He announced that he's been investigated by the NIB. He said he's been going to NIB for a while now.
Oh, okay.
And nobody knew that until he said it publicly.
Exactly.
You know about that case?
Yeah, I know about all the cases, from my office. So yes, that's so he's just confirmed what I'm saying. There are a couple of them who.
But what has he been investigated for? he put it out himself. I didn't know. What was he being investigated
A number
for?
of things, but he was a minister for energy and minister for education for the 8 years. So definitely we have projects that were undertaken during his time, and so he will definitely be answering questions in respect of that. The mathematical sets issues, those ones will fall under his ministry. But he's speaking from a position of office holder, and he has to speak to them. Unless you will not be prosecuted unless there is evidence that you were complicit in some of the things, So if you take the Sky train, for instance, Honorable Jogati at a point I think was invited, but he explained his side of the story. So when you look at the charge sheet for Sky train, he is not on it because
although he was a minister at the time.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that you're a minister doesn't mean that you will be criminally liable for anything. There are things that can happen in the ministry which may not be your doing. And so the fact that you're a minister, one, doesn't mean that you are guilty whenever there's a crime in your ministry. And the fact that you have been invited for questioning doesn't also mean that you are guilty. And like I said, the process that I've outlined, you would see that you don't automatically or immediately go to court. You go to court when the evidence shows that the person or there's a crime. And so I've seen a lot of, on social media, are very active. Every day, they tag me. I receive hundreds of tags. All others complaining about why the process is not fast.
Yeah.
And then
So why is the process slow?
Yeah,
so that's why it took your time to explain that long process.
Exactly. And it's slow. It's not that it's slow, just that the public only gets to know when the person is maybe arrested and there's noise, or when the person is being taken to court, and the public gets to know. But the ladies and gentlemen in the investigative agencies, the police, the NIB, Iyoko, Office of Special Prosecutor, all the agencies that conduct investigation, they are working extremely hard. You see how I don't sleep. I don't think they also sleep, because in the nights they are working, they are calling, they are asking for directives. They are applying for warrants, search warrants, freezing orders, arrest warrants, all these going on, some at short notice, and because, of course, if you want warrant to search a place, you cannot say you are going to give notice. All these things are going on. So it is not exactly true when we say that the process is slow. It's actually not slow. It's moving so quickly. The only thing is that not everything that we can put out as law enforcement, agencies, it's not everything that we can put out. Those that we need to put out, we would put out. But trust me, if you know what's going on, like you said about the Honorable former Education Minister. Yeah, he has said it. He's been going, but people wouldn't know. People wouldn't know that he's been going there.
Until said himself publicly.
Exactly. Yeah.
The recover part, that is a part that, as state, historically, we've been abysmal at recovery. People go to jail all the time when governments change. Why do you think Ora will be different? When all attorney generals in the past have failed, they, yes, get people jailed, but the recovery, Woyome, classic example, your former NDC government actually started a prosecution. The government campaigned on it, won elections, promised to recover. They've been in power for 8 years, and we don't know what the update is, how much of the 50+ million have they recovered. That is a challenge. Why do you think you will succeed where almost everybody else has failed?
So we will succeed in terms of recovery because, first of all, there is a process. It used not to, what we call this plea bargaining used not to be part of our laws. Now it is part, and one of the objectives of the plea bargaining is recovery. So now we have a legal framework for recoveries, but that is voluntary recovery. Now there is a compulsory recovery, which not compulsory in the sense that we are bound to, but we are developing a very sophisticated system of asset recovery at the Attorney General's Department. What these people do is to use every legitimate means possible to trace assets. So if you have an account, we would know all the bank accounts you have in Ghana. So if you were in the Kwabena Edu proceedings earlier today, and you see the documents we have put before the courts as disclosures, about 60 of those documents were bank statements, bank account correspondences from banks on various accounts of the accused persons. So, and there is a chart that we have also disclosed as part of the process. Maybe if you go through the court process, you'll find that it's been filed. It tells you, it shows you a clear picture of how money moves. Money is traceable. So it tells you that this money was moved from this account on this day at 2 p.m. And then you go and look for the accused person's bank account, let's say in X bank. You go there and you will see that at 3 p.m., the money which left here is there. The same amount.
It wasn't a wire transfer.
Yes, you will see that it took cash, and then a few hours later, you see that that exact amount has been deposited into this person's account. And then you follow, maybe 2 days later, the money moved from there, the same amount of money, and is entering into a real estate company's account. And then you track, then you see that this is what the person bought. So if you look at the discoveries we have done in court today, you will see this movement. It will give you time, 2:15 in the morning of Sunday. This is what happened. We give you that is how sophisticated the asset recovery element is in this case. And it's applying to, we are doing it for all the other persons.
So you've set up a special unit within the Attorney General's
Office
for asset declaration. It has always been there?
It's not always been there. It used to be something that was, other agencies had it, but we believe that because most of the agencies are not prepared or are not equipped with that skill of asset, tracing, or the people they have trained are not, they don't have the skill to do that. There's a special unit, and that is what they do. So
asset tracing and recovery?
Yeah.
Is that what they're set up to do?
Yeah, they trace assets and they recover assets.
Were these people that you had repurposed that were already within the Attorney General's office, or you had to bring them?
Some of them are from IOCO. IOCO is hosting one of such investigating teams. So if you go to IOCO, most of them actually come from the Yoko financial, economic and financial crime, economic crime office. Yeah, so that is what we do. So we are very deliberate on it this time around. Maybe previously these were not part of what Attorney General's office, used to do. Yeah, they arrest you, they take you to court, they prove that you have stolen this money, and then there's no evidence that this is the money, this is where it went. So you can use your money to buy something and nobody cares or nobody would find out. But now we are taking steps to ensure that we trace assets. Some of the assets have been traced to foreign, countries, and
moved out of Ghana.
Moved out of Ghana, and the Attorney General is also in the process of engaging foreign investigators who also specialize in asset tracing. So a lot is going on.
I see. So people are not only moving money internally; they are shipping money also to offshore accounts.
Yeah.
But those offshore accounts often operate blindly. I mean, how are you going to track that? They can take it to a Cayman Islands, and those regimes have all these laws that protect.
Yeah, it's not everyone who carries their money to Cayman, for instance. Some just buy properties outside. Okay. They don't go through any elaborate scheme. Those ones...
So they are washing the money through real estate in other countries.
Exactly.
You found that in your investigations as well?
We charge... almost all the charges we have filed, you see money laundering.
As part of it.
Yeah, as part of it.
I mean, that brings up the question of Chairman Wontumi. The accusation is that you are persecuting the man. Why are you persecuting Chairman Wontumi?
I don't think the government or the Attorney General's Department or any of the agencies we have is engaged in persecution of anyone, and definitely not Chairman Wontumi. The challenge we have as law enforcement agency is that it's not everything we can put out at every time that people make allegations of this kind, right? So, because we also are balancing the right of the suspects with what we want. So it is difficult, for example, for me to sit here and say, this suspect has done this, and that, when the investigative reports, when the docket has not been built. Once the docket is built, you will see that no one is persecuting Chairman Wontumi. No way. I spent my past decade or more doing, human rights defense in so many difficult cases. I will not come and sit in Attorney General's office and be happy persecuting or harassing someone who we merely believe or suspect to be doing something wrong. My boss would not do that. And President Mahama has made it clear that he is not in this oral business to persecute anyone. And we know, myself and my boss, we know very well that if there is any evidence of misuse of our offices to persecute even opponents of the government, we will not last in our offices for even one more hour. So we will not risk that.
The manner of his arrest, I mean, we're told the officers literally blocked his vehicle in what in the streets are going to call a pit maneuver, and yanked him out of the car with mask and put him in another vehicle. What you see in the movies, and they sort of drove him up to another location. His lawyers claimed they were not given access to him initially. He is then kept there for as long as we know, but then given a bail condition that was pretty onerous. He couldn't meet them. That led to the protest. He came out looking like he suffered a stroke. At least we saw the videos. That is, according to those who accuse you, is a very definition of persecution.
So that's I can understand them, but I disagree with what their view is. I can understand them in the sense that they don't have the full facts, and so they are watching what is being projected deliberately to them.
So what are the
to
facts?
the media? Like I said,
what don't we know?
Yeah, so I'll give you some of the facts, but not ones that I can't give. Like I said, it's not everything that law enforcement agencies are allowed to put out there. So, for example, the law enforcement agencies have been trying to arrest, they've been trying to have Chairman Wontumi, assist in investigations for weeks before his arrest.
Yeah, but he turned himself in.
Yeah,
He had gone the first day, cordially. The next
yeah,
day, he showed up again.
So you recall,
was cooperating.
You recall that before he came to Accra, there was a situation where his house was surrounded by national security and other law enforcement officials for hours. That should tell you how hard it has been for him. And before that, he himself, I think, mentioned it at the point that they wrote him a letter asking him to report and assist in investigation. But it appears he chose to treat it as, of course, it's an invitation, which you can ignore, and that is the law. If we are invited to police station, you may or may not go. But when you choose not to go or to go on your own terms, and the law enforcement agencies trigger the arrest option, I don't think you can say that is persecution.
But he went. Eventually, he drove to Accra.
Yes, he came to Accra.
He told you when he will come. He did.
With the police,
came on the...
he is not being investigated by just one agency. So he came to Accra on the police, invitation. But that does not answer why he did not come to Iyoko.
Did Iyoko also write to him? Because we know about the police's invitation.
Yeah, you know about the police from him. He told the public that he has been written to.
But did Iyoko write to him?
I cannot answer that question. But what I'm saying is that it is up to him to decide what to give to the public and what not to give to the public. But what we know is that every step that we have taken in respect of the situation, we did in accordance with law. And I think his lawyer confirmed that to the public at a point. So it is difficult for me to accept that there is persecution. Of course, I expect if there is persecution, there are procedures which the complainant
What is he
being
investigated for exactly?
Oh, his contracts with the state in terms of monies had and received is a technical term, which means that monies have been given for
to execute a project.
Yeah, that is one. His mining activities are in the investigation. There are issues of vehicle, purchase of vehicle. There are issues with our foreign partners, investigative agencies. We partner with other foreign agencies who are interested in things that have been traced or suspicions of crime that have been traced to his business and he himself.
So you mean this is investigation triggered not by us, but by our foreign partners?
No, so it is not that it will be triggered necessarily by our foreign partners, but our foreign partners are interested in what we are doing, and they assist us just as we assist them in the crimes that they fight. Because the world that's how the world law enforcement is going these days. It's cooperative, it's international, and all that. So they are interested in
Wuntumi's case.
Yeah.
Why?
Because they suspect that proceeds of crime or materials which are subject to criminal proceedings have found themselves in his possession.
But why the foreign? Did he do something through the foreign countries? Or?
That is something I cannot confirm. Not that I cannot put out at this point. But the point I'm trying to make is that we will not persecute anyone.
And this car import-export syndicate. Yesterday, your colleague, the government spokesperson, mentioned it as part of the investigations is because of a syndicate that it were bringing in cars into this country. How big a part of the investigation is that? Yeah, so it's taking shape. To be honest with you, I believe our international foreign partners are very much interested in the oral, movement, because we are assisting them just as they are assisting us to recover assets in their countries. So we write to them, they write to us, we discuss options, and then we take actions. So that is what is going on. What's the nature of this import thing? I mean, I'm just curious on that. Yesterday, I spoke to Felix Kwachufos, who mentioned it, but what's the nature of it? I cannot put that out because you need to understand, if I am here and I'm telling you the design, the scheme, what I'm also doing is to inform the suspects that we are looking for you in this direction, and then it helps them to
evade investigation.
But you're getting assistance from the foreign partners
definitely.
to nail this one.
Definitely.
Okay. And that links to Ofori-Atta's thing. Because his family issued a statement 2 days ago, and they mentioned that yourselves, Foreign Affairs, appear to be assisting the OSP in pursuit of the red notice. What really is the nature of the assistance you've given the OSP on this?
So the OSP, as we know, is having difficulty having the former minister, come to assist in investigations. That we all know for months. It gets to a point where we can't wait anymore because everything is time bound. And so the OSP decide that they would seek international assistance. That's the red notice alert. The red notice alert is to tell everyone, all parties to the Interpol, treaty, that if you find this person in your jurisdiction, you can assist us to bring him back to face, justice in Ghana. And the assistance comes in so many forms. So you can arrest him and keep him temporarily. Beyond that, there must be a formal extradition process to have the person. So the fact that you're on the red notice is not automatic that there's an arrest warrant for which you'll be extradited. There must be a separate extradition process which will now assist, or wherever you are found, then we can trigger that for you to be arrested. You go through extradition proceedings in the country, and then you are shipped to Ghana to face prosecution. So in that respect, it's the Office of Attorney General that helps with extradition. We assist all the agencies to deal with our foreign partners, how to arrest and bring that. So we are currently in the process of taking steps to have him extradited to Ghana, wherever he's found.
Okay, so wasn't, because you have an extradition treaty with the U.S.?
Yes.
We have an understanding with the U.S.
We have understanding.
What was the nature? What does the law prescribe that you do in this specific case?
So first of all, the crime must be crime in both countries. So whatever we are asking him to come and face must be crime, not just in Ghana, but also in the country that he is found. And then we make a formal application to the law enforcement agency in the country. They will look for him. They would place him under arrest. They have their own extradition process in that country where he has every right to object to the extradition.
Have you made that request yet?
We are in the process.
Of making the request to the U.S.
For
the law enforcement agencies in the U.S.
yes,
to actively look for him?
Yeah, not just U.S. because we have to be sure of where he is, and that I cannot disclose, but let's use U.S. as an example. So we would.
He himself has said this in the U.S. So
yeah, he has said a number of things that we have to confirm. So we can't take his word for that. So when our processes get to the U.S., I was saying, then they will go through the proceedings. He will have every right to object to the extradition, and there are so many grounds on which you can object to being extradited to country. One of such is that, so for example, in the UK, they are not going to extradite you to a country where they know you face execution when you are convicted. That is the European law. European human rights law doesn't allow that. So those are some of the grounds on which you may object. But to put a long story short, you have a full legal representation.
That is, but he must have been found and arrested before he can now object to being extradited. Yeah. So the law enforcement agents, once you trigger this, must now look for him, arrest him, tell you they have him, and then his lawyers will go into the process of now saying, I don't want to go, and then he'll provide his reason, and then you're prepared to fight that.
Yeah, our investigators will go and supply it, because the U.S. is not going to extradite you simply because we say bring him. They want to be sure that you have evidence and they need a basis for the extradition. So all those will be carried to the U.S. law enforcement. They will vet the court, the U.S. court will vet it and be sure that this is not just harassment and that the person really needs to be brought back, and then he will be brought back. And once it comes, he will be arrested on arrival, and then he will be cautioned or charged with the offense, he will be given the right to defend himself like anyone. And the process goes on. Of course, there will be bail consideration, whether to be granted bail and what terms the bail should take, all will be considered, just like any other trial that you've seen.
I mean, the accusation is that now that the AG's department is involved and all of you are political appointees, the OSP isn't. Well, he technically is, but the legal structure that sets him up says he's independent. But you are purely political appointees. And once you are involved, you have an interest just simply beyond justice. That there's also a political interest there, and that's why you're more than willing to trigger the processes to have him looked for in the US, arrested, bundled into a plane and brought into Ghana.
We are familiar with the accusation that any prosecution that we commence in respect of politician, a politician tends to be political benefit to us. We are aware of that accusation, but I can tell you it is not true. Because you see... I mean,
you raided his house before this happened.
We searched...
Well, you searched his house
in accordance with the warrant.
According to the warrant, and his accusation was that you raided his house. I mean, you searched his house because you had a warrant. I mean, facts are facts.
Yeah.
You had a warrant, and the individual who led the search is somebody who had a bone and axe to grind with him, Jakba, where he was seen in the CCTV footage. And then you now link back to OSP's actions, and now the Attorney General is involved. Goodness me, this must be a political conspiracy.
That is not correct, because if the Attorney General doesn't do it, who else can do it? There's no other agency.
Why can't the OSP do it himself?
Well, we can look at that and make laws to allow OSP to do some of these things. But like I said, the United States is not going to bring anyone here simply because an NDC appointee or the Attorney General wants the person here. There's a whole process for extradition that they will go through. And I don't think that even if we are if our courts are so amenable to just take the word of the Attorney General without scrutiny, I don't think that favor extends to United States, even if that is the case in Ghana. So I can assure you that we are here. The former Minister of Finance is currently in court, right? He is challenging a lot of things. That shows you that he himself has confidence in the judiciary and is willing to explore the options that are available to him. So why should we be more interested in political commentary? In any case, it is not only the OSP that is investigating the former finance minister.
Who else?
Yoko is doing the same. NIB is doing the same. So,
what is Yoko investigating?
I can't give you the details, but it's just enough for us to know that it is not only the OSP that is looking for the cooperation from the former Minister of Finance.
Because OSP's, Yoko is economic and organized crime.
Yeah. They
tend to look more with money laundering. I mean, just by the very architecture and setup and legal acts that created it, you can guess what they're looking for if they're investigating Ofori-Atta. Has he been involved in economic crime? Or suspected crime, economic crime?
The investigations will show. I mean, investigations means that there's a suspicion, and we are investigating to establish whether the suspicion is founded or is true or not. So if you ask me whether he's involved, I won't be able to speak to that, but I know there are investigations concerning him in the circles of Yoko.
Yoko, and then NIB as well.
NIB as well.
Do you know what the NIB is looking for?
I cannot disclose.
Is it a duplication of what the OSP is doing? Because OSP has published what they're looking for already. Is it a duplication of that?
No.
Completely separate?
Completely.
Completely separate from what the OSP is put out?
So long as the Attorney General Office is involved in the coordination, we will not allow one. It's waste of resources, and it's also abuse of the right of a suspect to be dragged before multiple investigating agencies in respect of the same thing. So we will not allow that to happen.
In other words, if it touches down in Ghana today, the OSP will not be the only institution that will be looking to speak to him.
They will not be the only institution. Other institutions will be interested in his assistance in investigation. And let me. The fact that they are looking for him to assist in investigations that itself does not mean that he's a suspect or he's an accused person or anything. It's just that the office he occupied is an office which deals with money. So, and sometimes documents are enough to satisfy us on what we are looking for. Sometimes you need someone to speak to the documents, to be able to even get other people, as accused persons. We need someone to speak to the document. So, for example, if you are investigating me, and then there is a document showing that I did not approve, I'm the minister, I did not approve a certain, the document does not disclose that I have not approved a certain transaction. You'll be interested in confirming for me that, yes, we don't find any evidence of approval, but approval could take other forms. You'll be interested in asking me questions about that particular transaction. If I'm able to explain myself sufficiently, I will go home and you continue your investigations with the person who is the primary object of the investigation. You may not need to haul me before a court or to ask me any questions anymore. And that is what maybe, let me take this opportunity to maybe not to educate, but to explain something to the public, that the fact that you have been invited to assist in investigation is not conclusive that you have committed a crime or that you'll be a subject of court. Sometimes you just have to give information for other people. And something we are discovering is that a lot of the crimes that are being investigated are connected in one way or the other to either some individual or some project or some, because if money goes from here, maybe Mr. A has been awarded a contract. He took the money, he's not performed the contract. Okay. Then he realized that in his account, the money landed on this date. Immediately after that, 20%, 10% of the money which was given to him moves to another public official's account. There must be someone to speak to this. How come 10% of this money found its way to your wife's account, to your nephew's account, to your own personal account, or this cash was given to you this day, and we realized that the moment the cash left here, this bank, the same amount is deposited in this account which belongs to you? These are questions that we need to ask. If you're able to give us explanations to them, you walk and you go home. So coming to assist in investigation itself not any...
And just before we wrap up, legal education. I know you are a lecturer, so
yes.
We've been told that we should expect the bill. Where are we with that bill? I'm sure, is it gone to cabinet yet?
The bill is ready. Maybe let me take the opportunity to give you an idea of what the bill will achieve. So currently, all universities that are running the LLB program, including the foreign ones, they produce LLB graduates. But the LLB graduates would have to, apply to Makola to be, that's Ghana School of Law, to be admitted to read for the QC or the professional course. So you see that every year there is an entrance exam, and all the graduates from all the universities apply, they sit for exams, and then a certain number is admitted based on the performance in the exams and also the capacity that the law school has that is taken into account, and they are admitted. Over the years, there have been serious issues with that process. Now, what the reform bill is trying to achieve is that a lot of the subjects, first of all, there will not be any, not that there will not be any law school, the universities are going to be given accreditation to run some of the professional courses in the universities. So when you enter Legon, for instance, you will apply to be admitted to the LLB program, right? And then after LLB, there will be 1 year, or 2 years, depending on what Parliament agrees to, where you will run civil procedure, criminal procedure, all the courses that you need to professionally qualify to be a lawyer. You can read them in, say, Legon. Then, when you pass those courses in Legon, then you now apply to take the final exams. So
you sit for the bar?
Sit for the bar. The technical, sit for the bar exams. And when you pass the bar exams, you are called to the bar. Which
is what happens in the US. And I know you still know.
Exactly. So we are just trying to align ourselves to the international trend. So
you can sit for the bar anywhere?
Anywhere. In fact, you can do your LLB in Legon and go and do your professional law in Gempa, and then apply to Makola to get to take the bar. So we are trying to be flexible, we are trying to give people options, and we're also trying to ensure, most importantly, that there is integrity in the training process. So for example, you will not be given accreditation to run the professional law course simply because you are running an LLB program. We would have to, the General Legal Council, the Board of Legal Education, would have to inspect and certification of schools to give them accreditation. Some of the things that the bill will ensure is that your law school must have a moot court facility, because the legal community is interested in practice and building advocacy. Yeah. Because general view among lawyers is that advocacy is dying. Go to court these days and you don't get that kind of advocacy, presentation of argument, organization of argument, whether in written form or even in speech. So it's going to be one of the key things that, so if you don't have a moot court facility, you definitely are not going to get admission. If you don't have the quality of teachers in terms of practice, so it's not going to be, the law professional program is not going to be taught mainly because you are a doctor of law in something. You might have demonstrated practice experience. So persons who may not necessarily have any doctorates in law, but have demonstrated and have acquired enough, organized learning, knowledge in practice, may be teaching the professional law program, while a PhD holder in constitutional law or business law may not be qualified to take the professional program. So these are some of the things that the bill would be introducing. So the General Legal Council then becomes the administering body. Definitely. For all they sort of supervise all the universities running the LLB course and then the professional course. Yeah. So actually there's going to be a decoupling of the, currently the General Legal Council is responsible for legal education. And then professional standards. There's going to be decoupling of that. So there will be a different body which will run the legal education aspect and will be responsible for calling persons to the bar. Then there will be another body that will be responsible for maintaining standard once you are called to the bar. So that's the GLC will remain, and their focus will just exactly. So by the educational function will be taken and given to. So we're creating a new institution. A new institution to take to. There are those who believe you should scrap the GLC altogether. No, the GLC is, I think those who say that because of their role in other aspects of, for example, legal education and other things. But I'm sure when the decoupling is done and the structure is given, those people will not see the General Legal Council is irrelevant. It is indeed relevant. So far as it relates to the governance of the practice itself, of the lawyers. It is relevant. Yeah. But for education, we think that other... So this bill will strip it of its educational role. And you see, let me give you a bit of history. The GLC was supposed to be a stopgap measure when at the time. It was meant to, because at the time we didn't have a lot of lawyers. So we didn't have enough people to form a separate body for legal education, a separate body for ensuring standards at the bar, and a separate regulatory body for judges. So the GLC was playing all these roles, was responsible for enrollment to the bar, standards, and even practice and disciplinary matters. So it was loaded with that because we didn't have a lot of they required human resource to place these functions that are different. That was, so if you read the memorandum to the Act 30, that is what you see. It's been how many years? 60 years, 1960, now we are in 2024, and we are still operating the same system. It's really not what it's supposed to be. So this is just to correct or to remove that stopgap measure, which ended up being there for a very long time, so that proper administration of legal education. Has Cabinet had a look at it yet, or is still in Cabinet? It's still in the process with Cabinet. With Cabinet, yeah, okay. But the Attorney General has done the reviews already. Oh yeah, so the lawmaking process, it moves to Cabinet, it comes back to AG's department, the drafting department, even when it's in Parliament, drafting department, so it's still, let's say, it's still with us. Okay. Yeah. But when do you expect that it will go to Parliament? We are in this June. Yeah. By August, we should go. We should believe. I mean, your expectation is that this by the end of this year. This year. Yeah. By the end of this parliament sitting, it should be. It should be passed. It should be passed. Okay. So maybe the next batch of students who will be taking will not go to Makola, or there will be a transition period, but we'll give options for taking your LLB program, I mean your professional course program in the universities would be available to you.
But you're very certain that next year there will not be entrance exams?
So there must be some transition period, because some people have already done the LLB and they have already prepared to, I think they're going to take the exam next month.
Yeah.
And then, so we need to provide avenues for transition. So to that extent, people will still be going through that process. But I am sure by the end of 2-3 years, there wouldn't be anything of the old system. People will just continue the education
but let's note that it's part of your proposals in your manifesto, that this is something that you would do, and that box you're ticking. Yeah. I'm grateful.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Yeah.